Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Transfer Talk podcast. My name is Pete Graves.
It could be Peter Graves, Peter Graves, Peter Graves. Oh, Peter Graves.
Brilliant.
Peter Graves, Peter Graves, Peter Graves. Whoa, Peter Graves. Hello, Peter.
Hello, mate. That could be, if I was a boxer, that could be my walk-in song. You've really pumped me up there, Dom. Was that a viewer, a listener recommendation?
So the viewers and the listeners are coming in with ideas, but they're so specific. It's almost like trying to learn a brand new song as opposed to me just sticking your name in something. They've really gone to town with it, with some of them. But I will be using one or two of them in the coming weeks. So
okay.
Whoever's listening, again, do keep sending them in. I have used one of them before last week. Just need them to be a little bit more simplified, if possible.
Yeah, I like that.
Too clever.
They're always very topical. That's Coldplay, of course.
Yes.
We were massively in the news the other day for reasons that it's gone viral, of like two people hugging in the crowd and getting caught on camera. A bit like a bit like if anyone ever caught me and our other guest Sam Tighe at a concert. Sam, how are you, mate? Nice to see you.
Yeah, topical for the CEO of Astronomer, but also Messi was on Coldplay Can the other night. I'm sure you saw at the Hard Rock Stadium. So the whole crowd broke into a chant of Mercy, Mercy. Fortunately, he was with his wife, and not the head of HR. Much to everyone's relief. But I'm very well, Pete. How are you?
Yeah, very well. I'm very excited. I'm going to see Oasis tonight as we're recording this with my son, and I was all ready to brag about it with you guys because I know you both wanted to go. But actually, Dharmesh, you've been already. What the heck is going on here?
I feel a little bit guilty about this whole thing because when the craziness about Oasis and their reunion tour came out, I'll be honest, I was like, take it or leave it. And I wasn't going to go on the phone and spend hours. There were so many people on my WhatsApp groups. Oh, I can't get a ticket. I can't this. I was like, yeah, I know some of their songs. I do like them. Whatever. Then on Saturday, a friend of mine who's actually going this Saturday was like, oh, I've just seen there's tickets on this ticket website.
Yeah.
They're quite reasonably priced. I want to go tonight. And I said, well, yeah, I'm not too fussed. I'm playing golf. And there was like a pause, and he goes, this is why we work so hard for moments like this. And I was like, oh, all right, I won't play golf. Go on then. I'll come to the concert. Oh my goodness. Thank God I went.
Oh,
mate,
brilliant.
I got right into it, wore a bucket hat, everything.
Yes.
It was absolutely brilliant.
Class. Well, I've got my bucket hat literally to the left of me here and my Oasis t-shirt. When this finishes recording, I'm going to whip them on, get on the train in Newcastle, get down to Wembley and go tonight. So I will report next week what it was like.
Let me tell you something very quickly. So when we left, like when you leave a football match at Wembley, and it takes ages to get to Wembley Park Station. Well, that was the case with this concert. There's clearly like 90 to 100,000 people, or however many it was at Wembley. And, I'm there for like 40 minutes. They've got those stop and start, stop and go. And so it took 45 minutes to get down to the station. And, a lot of people had a few drinks, and I was like, oh, what's the atmosphere like when everyone's waiting, people are going to get frustrated, there's going to be a bit of trouble. Nothing. Complete silence until someone had a speaker and they started blaring out Oasis and Verve songs, because Richard Ashcroft's a support act on there, who was brilliant as well, by the way. And then the whole of Wembley Way just started singing.
Class.
It was a beautiful moment. Beautiful.
Usually we don't get stuck in that queue because we're doing post-match duties as journalists and broadcasters, right? By the time I get to By the time I get to Wembley Way, it's empty. That's 3 hours after after the
Same.
full-time whistle.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to go back. So it'll be the first time going back to Wembley since Newcastle won the Carabao Cup final. There's the first mention of the day for the people who get frustrated by my constant Newcastle mentions. Yes, I'm looking forward to going back there. Great memories, of course, and I'll be alongside my son again, who was with me when we lifted the trophy there a few months back now, isn't it? But still dining out on that one up here in the northeast. Right, let's get into this. Sam, you been all right, mate? I mean, enjoying your summer. What's been happening?
Oh, do you know, I feel like in the last week or so, I've hit that point where I'm almost getting like transfer fee fatigue. I don't know if you know what I mean, but just like there's been so many deals for 30, 40, 50 million pounds that in their own right should be quite big deals. But because there's been so many of them, I get more news that someone's joined Club X for 30 million. I go, okay.
Don't
And then
forget the add-ons.
And then there's the plus add-ons. Only wanted to join them, and and then there's more news. Oh, he's going to join X for 50. I'm like, okay. But I should be like, oh my god. But 2 months into the window, you just get, it's not transfer fatigue, it's transfer fee fatigue, where almost nothing shocks you at this point. Ekatike, 69 rising to 79. I was like, okay, all right, no worries.
You could call it transfer fatigue, maybe.
Fatigue.
Yeah. Very good. This is
Or
why
maybe
you
not.
guys are on here. Brilliant content, boys. Right, so transfers wise, Sam.
Yes.
We're going to start with Alexander Isak. 3 weeks ago now, I think you said your gut feeling was he's going to end up at Liverpool, and when they signed Ekatike, I sort of slept a lot easier. I've had so many people tweeting me going, "How are you sleeping, Pete?" Because this is playing out in the sort of a nightmarish way. Although it's certainly not over. It is not over as things stand. Liverpool desperate to sign him. Newcastle hoping that he stays, but clearly in the market for other strikers as well. So what's happening? I mean, the latest we know is that the Newcastle boss, Eddie Howe, he admitted that Isak's future may be out of his hands, with the striker strongly linked now to Liverpool. And we know that Isak's informed the club that he wants to explore his options this window. Before we get into the chat, boys, let's hear exactly what Eddie Howe had to say when he was asked on their pre-season tour in South Korea.
He's still our player. It's contracted to us, so we to a degree control what's next for him. So I'd love to believe all possibilities are still available. So we've received no formal offer from any football club for him. So my wish has always been that he stays and we see him again play next year, but that's not in my full control.
Eddie's wish is that he stays. He echoes the sentiments of just about every single Newcastle United fan, although there has been a bit of a shift in emotion with regards to Alexander Isak and the Newcastle fans. I'll get into that in a second, but key thing there, Dharmesh, no formal offer received. Which way is this one going to go?
Can I just start off by saying, look, social media sometimes is a wonderful thing, but I noticed a couple of comments the other day when I talked about Isak on the transfer show on Sky Sports News, and there were replies underneath, and it was almost like there were some fans who were saying, oh, here's the media agenda again. They want Isak out of Newcastle and to go to Liverpool. And I read these things and I think, do people actually think that what we say is going to dictate whether Alexander Isak makes £150 million departure from Newcastle? No. All we do is we get information, and that's all we can do. We don't make an opinion on that situation. Sometimes we do because we read between the lines. And if you look at what Eddie Howe is saying, he's saying it's in our control to a degree. Is it? It's in your full control, surely. We're not saying that. This is the Newcastle manager saying it's in our control to a degree. It's clear. Alexander Isak's head has been turned. He hasn't gone on the tour. He wants to explore his options outside Newcastle. That's not us. This is the information everybody is getting. So we can only report that. Now, the way this is going, it feels like the direction of travel is going to be Isak leaves. But Obviously, Liverpool, if it is to be them, because we know they've got a huge interest in the player, are going to have to stump up a massive, massive fee. They're going to have to break their own British transfer record to get him. We're hearing anything between 120 to 150 million pounds to get Isak out of Newcastle, especially if it's going to be a club like Liverpool and he's going to stay in the Premier League. So that's the feeling that not only myself, but generally is around Alexander Isak just at this moment in time, only because a minor thigh strain, yes, that could keep him out of a tour. I get that. But coupled alongside all of the noise surrounding him at the moment, Newcastle know that they've got a problem. And are they looking at the likes of Yohan Wissa, Ollie Watkins, Benjamin Šeško, if they are not fearing Alexander Isak is going to leave the football club? That's the problem at the moment.
Sam, you talked at the top about fatigue, and 150 million is what is being touted as Newcastle United's asking price. Is that a fair fee for Alexander Isak?
Yeah, I mean, no transfer fatigue on £150 million. That's enough to make anyone's eyeballs pop, isn't it? Look, Newcastle are well within their rights to demand as much as they possibly can here, and I think they're about right to pitch it about £150 million. It's getting on in the window. I'd probably had him tagged at about 120 million back at the start of the summer, but as time ticks by and options reduce and time goes by, it's sorry, but it's a matter of urgency, and the price has to go up. And the fact that Newcastle have this situation where they have Isak with 3 years left on his deal, it does give them a lot of power in this scenario, because they do get to dictate that fee, because even if he didn't go this summer, they still get another season out of him and then 2 more years of negotiating. So Newcastle are in a really good position, and I think they're playing it quite well. They're absolutely right to pitch him at 150. Perhaps that means that they end up getting 120, 130, whatever it might be. Huge fee. I mean, Florian Wirtz has just set the potential British transfer record with 100 plus 16, and this would go even higher. So club to club Premier League business the prices just gets hiked up, and Newcastle have to do everything they can here to try and put Liverpool off or get an absolutely outrageous amount of money.
Pete, let me ask you something here. You started off by saying, look, that the feeling amongst Newcastle fans is changing around this. I'm only telling you, I'm got any interest in any club or the player. I'm just reporting what I'm told and what is around there at the moment. But you're clearly in kind of both camps here, not only as someone who can report on this story, but also someone who's got a vested interest, because you're a massive Newcastle United fan. You're starting to say that the feeling around the fans, the fan base, is changing. So what is that feeling? What are you hearing? What are you saying? What are fans saying to you about it all?
Well, Eddie Howe said something in his news conference as well. He said all options are still possible. And he mentioned contract talks could be for something else for a bit further down the line when this is all sort of played out. When I said about the things changing, Newcastle United fans, like any football fan, truly believe that they only want players at the club who want to play for the football club. And if Alexander Isak is making noises that he doesn't want to play for the club anymore, wants to explore his options, isn't coming on the pre-season tour, I think there is a growing number of Newcastle fans who are going, you know what? If he don't want to be here, we don't want him here. Let's get rid. Let's cash in now. Let's get the money and rebuild. A lot of Newcastle fans get really, really frustrated that other clubs are seemingly able to add numbers every window. But the reality is, if you actually put it down in black and white on paper, you can see the sales that these clubs have made. A lot of the clubs at the top is not only their global reach and their sponsorship deals, but also they make great sales. I mean, people talk about Chelsea, but they sell a lot of players for a lot of money. Newcastle United haven't got that many sellable assets. Isak is the most sellable asset. So I think there are a certain number of fans who think, you know what? Yeah, cash in. You don't want to be here. And you can reinvest that 100+ million and bring in 3, 4, 5 quality players, and those who understand PSR know that doesn't mean that you're going to get 100 say it is 150. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to 150 million spend. It could actually be more than that, significantly more than that, in the way you can spread it across a number of years on contracts and so on. So for Newcastle, this is a real crossroads. It's an opportunity to completely revitalize the team, bring in 4 or 5 players that come straight into that starting 11. Benjamin Šeško has been mentioned. Yohan Wissa's another one. They've looked at Mark Tighe, Scalvini, the Italian, another couple of Italian and Spanish centre-back. There's midfielders being mentioned. Closer Sam, but Douglas Luiz has been linked with the club. There's other centre midfielders that have been linked. It's people who could come in to replace Sean Longstaff. You could be in a situation where Longstaff goes out, you bring in someone like Luiz. I'm just talking hypothetically. Wilson's gone out, you replace him with Wissa or Yohan Wissa. Isak goes out, you replace him with Šeško. You replace, you fill that sort of centre-back need with someone like Scalvini or Tighe. We know what we're going to speak about Ramsdale. So for Newcastle, there is a growing number of fans that think just sell and let's reinvest the money. There's 5 weeks left of the window, just under.
Pete, I think you make a great point here. Sorry, Sam. I think you make a great point here, only because I know you last week were saying it's so frustrating for Newcastle United being the richest club in the world and not being able to spend this money. Now, we know that the rules changed before that takeover happened, so they were always going to be a little bit hamstrung compared to these other clubs who were able to spend that money when those rules weren't really in existence, the likes of City and Chelsea, when they were able to form that foundation. The thing with Newcastle now, they might have to do it slightly more slowly and build. And so trying to get into the Champions League every season is going to help. They're going to spread their reach, increase their revenues, get more money when they do shirt sponsorships. All of this kind of thing is going to be something that's going to have to grow a little bit more slowly than they would like because of the investment that they have available to them. So on the one side, some Newcastle fans, as you're saying, are changing their feeling. It's almost gone from an emotional one when it was heard, when it was put out there that Isak effectively wanted to explore his options, to now, right, season's nearly starting. If he doesn't want to be here, let's get the money in. Let's get the players in who want to be here. And then maybe we can build again, have a good run in the league, have a good run in the Champions League, and see if we can qualify again for the Champions League next season, because that's what will build Newcastle's revenue year on year.
And this is just a form of fatigue, I think, Pete. All fans start the summer going, we can't lose our best players. We don't want to do that. And it overtakes them emotionally for such a long time that you get 2 months into the window, and that's basically where we are. We're 2/3 of the way through, and it catches up with some people, and it takes its toll emotionally. And sometimes you turn around and go, "Oh, I just want a solution." And if he goes, he goes. It's tough to be sat in that situation where you don't know what's going to happen, where you feel like there's uncertainty, where you don't understand what's going on. Human beings don't like being in that situation, and Newcastle fans have just had. It's not just 2 months, is it? It's over a year. But even since March, really, these storylines were starting to pop up about Isak moving on. It's been a long time. It takes its toll on you, and eventually you're just reaching out for that solution. And if it's £150 million in and let's reload, well then let's do it. That becomes the mentality for some people.
I hate the idea of Isak leaving, guys. I do, but I feel myself getting more and more into that camp of maybe it is time. I just wish it was. I think secretly hoping, and this is purely it's not. I've got nothing against Liverpool at all, by the way. I think they're a fantastic team, and I've said week in, week out on this podcast, they've had an unbelievable window, and if they had Isak as well, it has to go down as the greatest transfer window, I think, in modern times. But the idea of him going to a Premier League rival, and it's amazing to think that Liverpool are a Premier League rival for Newcastle United, but I see them as a rival. Anyone who's battling to get in the Champions League, that top 5 or 6, to strengthen someone who's effectively above Newcastle in the league, I think that will really frustrate the club. And I think all fans would love to see a Real Madrid or a Barcelona or someone swoop in last minute. That would be ideal. And I think then Newcastle fans would hold their hands up and go, oh, fair play, let him go. I think it's just the idea that a team that finished above Newcastle are going to get stronger again that makes it even harder to swallow for the fans. But replacements are being looked at. Benjamin Šeško, I think, excites the Newcastle fans. He's only 22. He's big. He's imposing. I'm going to get your thoughts on him in a second, Sam. But there's a feeling that the RB Leipzig, if they're going to sell Šeško, will probably look at the money that Newcastle offered towards Hugo Ekitike as a sort of benchmark for what Newcastle can spend. So we're going to be looking at around sort of 80 million. Are we, Darms, do we think?
I mean, this is the theme, isn't it? Sam talks about transfer fee fatigue. The fees are being generated because clubs are comparing certain signings for how they value their player. And they've got every right to do that. If RB Leipzig say, well, Hugo Ekitike's gone for what, 69, 70 million pounds. Well, of course, Benjamin Šeško is going to go for at least that same amount. This is a player who's been linked with the Premier League for the last 3 or 4 transfer windows. And the one benefit, I guess, as well for RB Leipzig, rather like Eintracht Frankfurt with Hugo Ekitike, is the fact that there are more than one club who are after him. So they can almost play these clubs off against each other and raise that price. So I think this could be an interesting one because we've been expecting him to move for 2 or 3 transfer windows now. There was that whole, is it Gyökeres or is it Šeško with regard to Arsenal and to a certain degree Manchester United as well. And now Newcastle United have entered the frame. You can see why. And it adds fuel to the fact that maybe this will be the window that Isak leaves.
Sam, let me ask you, as someone who watches a lot of European football, 2 questions. Firstly, Šeško for Isak, if it does happen, Newcastle were to get Šeško, is that a good replacement?
I mean, look, he's not as good as Isak. I'm not going to sit here and pretend otherwise, and no one should. I've repeatedly called Isak a top 5 world striker on this podcast, and Šeško's not in that conversation. No way. So it's an immediate downgrade, but where else are you supposed to go if you're Newcastle and you sell Isak? I mean, who are the strikers that are actually better than him? And can you buy them? No, of course you can't. There's like 2 of them. And they're unavailable. They play for like Real Madrid and Barcelona, and one's called Erling Haaland. So you have to take a step back and you have to look down a little bit with the hope of the next player coming in is younger, is full of potential, and can make those strides. And Šeško is a very exciting striking prospect. He's someone that's been hyped up a little bit too much over the last 18 months. I've complained about that on this podcast too. But over the last year has started to enter that kind of conversation where you can start to consider him as someone worth really investing in because there's some amazing physical traits. He's an incredible striker of the ball. He's been scoring a lot of headers over the back half of last season, which is something he sort of added to his game. So at 22, that's a piece of potential that you would be pretty happy to buy into. Again, unfortunately, there's no other way but down post Isak, at least short term.
Well, can I ask you, Sam? Sorry to interrupt you. Then the second question I was going to ask you is: Isak and Wilson out, Šeško and Wissa in, upgrade or downgrade?
Still downgrade because
okay.
Because, I mean, your first choice striker is worse. So your first 11 is weaker than it was. Now, Wissa is a more reliable player than Wilson in terms of getting onto the pitch and these days contributing goals. So maybe you'd feel a bit better about the depth of your forward line. And in a pinch, Anthony Gordon can kind of play out there or whatever you need to do. But I can't sugarcoat losing Isak, Pete. I mean, you get a lot of money for it, but you get a player you literally cannot replace like for like quality because he is that good. But that's why he would cost this much money.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I thought you were going to make me feel better.
You tried.
Yeah, I tried. Well, we'll keep a close eye on this. There's, again, I said this right at the start when we were talking about this 3 weeks ago. There's different scenarios here. I mean, the dream scenario for Newcastle fans is they bring in Šeško, they sign Wissa, and they manage to keep Isak for 1 more year and maybe get him on improved terms with a buyout clause, and they ask for 1 more season, which we've seen happen.
That is a dream scenario, Pete.
Pete, I love your scenarios because you've changed this scenario. I do remember we were talking about 3 scenarios before. Yeah. The dream scenario is Isak and Ekitike up front. Second one, look, worst comes worst, we'll keep Isak if Ekitike doesn't come. The one I can't contemplate It's Ekatike doesn't come and Isak leaves. I can't handle it.
Yeah.
But now I've got a renewed scenario. So here's number one.
Yeah, exactly. You've spot on, mate. I know. I'm embarrassing myself here, but yeah, dream scenario one: Isak stays for another year, Šeško signs, and Wissa signs, and you've got a season of Šeško learning under Isak. That's the dream scenario. Probably very unlikely. Second scenario is Isak leaves and you bring in Šeško and Wissa. The nightmare scenario this time, and let's see where we are in 3 weeks when I'm crying in the microphone, is that Isak leaves. Newcastle don't manage to sign Šeško or Wissa, and they go into the Premier League season with
Dominic
William Asuna
Calvert-Lewin
as the only striker. And Callum Wilson comes back on a free. Yeah, that's at this stage, you know, I'd be carrying Callum and St James's myself, but we'll get on to him, I'm sure, in future episodes, if not today. One positive for Newcastle fans, though, Dharmesh, very quickly, was that Aaron Ramsdale has that's all but done, isn't it? He's going to be a Newcastle player.
Yeah, this is one that broke earlier on this week on Sky Sports News. Newcastle United were after James Trafford, weren't they, from Burnley? We'll talk about him later. They'd agreed a deal with Burnley only for City to come in. So they turned their attentions elsewhere, and Aaron Ramsdale looks like he is the man. And I think a deal is now agreed. He's expected to have a medical as we record this. This is Wednesday. He's expected to have a medical on Wednesday. So that one will be a loan with an option to buy at the end of the season. So Newcastle United, and I mean, you'll probably be able to answer this, Pete. They've already got Nick Pope there, of course. Martin Dubravka as well. There's a feeling at the moment, I think I'm speaking to Keith Downey about this, that he actually might start as number 2 at Newcastle and then fight his way to try and become the number 1. Is that what you're hearing as well?
Well, Eddie's very loyal to Nick Pope. I saw that Burnley, looking at the replacements for James Trafford, are looking at Dubravka, but also potentially Nick Pope.
Yeah.
See, for me, Dubravka's a brilliant number 2. And he's done that to perfection. And when Pope's been injured, he's come in and done a really good job. My personal opinion, with all due respect to Nick Pope, is that if you bring Ramsdale in, you make him number 1 and you keep Dubravka as number 2. Although I feel Dubravka nearly left last season and they asked for a bit more time because of the injury to Pope, and he came in and I think he had a move just about signed, sealed and delivered to Saudi Arabia at the time. Nick Pope is a fantastic shot stopper. The problem you have with Nick Pope is that his strongest asset isn't with the ball at his feet. He struggles a bit with his distribution, his clearance and coming off the line. I don't know whether you saw, but in the preseason friendly against Celtic, he came sprinting out of his goal, trying to provide that sort of extra, and the ball just bounced over his head and Celtic tapped it in. It was a real clanger, and it just continued this rhetoric that Newcastle fans have, and I understand it is that Nick Pope's just not good at sweeping and being that sort of extra player at the back which Premier League clubs are looking for right now. Whether Aaron Ramsdale has those traits as well, I'm not sure that he does. I mean, he's not someone that I would necessarily associate with having fantastic distribution and coming off his line. For me, he seems like quite a similar goalkeeper to Nick Pope, but probably
I don't know. Sam will probably be able to say more on that. From what I've seen of him, he looks like he has got that, hasn't he?
I think Ramsdale's a big step up on the ball from Pope.
Okay.
But I will say that Pope is, as much as I respect the strength of his skill set, he's probably the worst goalkeeper on the ball in the Premier League. Like it's you know, it's pretty nervy stuff when he has the ball, and there's a lot that goes out of play and overhit, and it is difficult. Yeah. So obviously an area that Newcastle have been trying to look at for a while, hence the 1-year pursuit of James Trafford. And Ramsdale is a big step up in that regard. It's an interesting deal from Southampton's perspective too, because it's a chunky loan fee, which is presumably Ramsdale's book cost for the year, wages covered, get to the end of the season, and there's an option. And you never know, Newcastle might not be smitten with him and may not want to make him a permanent member of staff, but Southampton might come up and say, hey, perfect, got our Premier League goalkeeper back. So it feels like a deal that kind of works for just about everybody, in that it has a lot of flexibility for all of the parties.
Good stuff. Great stuff, guys. Lovely. Well summed up. Sam, this is why I love you, because I'm sure you haven't watched every single Newcastle game last season, but you are right in what you say with it sort of passes just floating out of play. I mean, it happens time and time again. Pope will get the ball at his feet, and he tends to shank the ball out for a throw in, and the whole crowd just goes, oh, and it does happen a lot. So but he's been a great servant, and he's a fantastic shot stopper. So whether he ends up staying and starts the season as number one, I do feel that it won't take long for Ramsdale to become number one. And Newcastle fans listening to this will be very positive about your thoughts on how good he is on the ball as well.
I've just received a couple of messages from the Nick Pope Supporters Club. I've just told them to redirect any messages to you too. Thanks very much.
Fair enough, yes. Just send them Sam's way. Sam loves it. He's already got the Sandro Tonali fan club messaging him every day. Let's move on anyway. Let's talk about Liverpool. We started by talking about, of course, Alexander Isak, and Liverpool certainly the main contenders for him. But a couple of high potential, high profile, should I say, outgoings, which could end up funding the Isak deal. Let's start with Luis Diaz. He's joined Bayern Munich, a deal around 65.5 million. Liverpool have confirmed it on social media now. Sam, I'll start with you here. At the start of the summer, you said Liverpool should sell Diaz. They've done that. Why is this the right move for the club?
Yes, finally a win for me. So we talked about this really early in the summer, but it was when Luis Diaz was being linked to Barcelona for about 80 million euros. And I was like, you just have to sanction that sale. Now, Liverpool in the end have sanctioned a sale worth about 75 million euros. So not far off. And I just think that's money you can't really refuse for a player at this stage of his career. So you take the emotion out of it, and that's hard to do because Diaz was a really, really big part of a title win last season. 18 goal contributions in the Premier League, played up front for half the season, was a genuine solution to Arne Slot and a very, very good player. But at 28, with my sporting director hat on, as I said back in early June, this is a player with 2 years left on his deal at 28 years of age. He, in the next year, is going to want a new contract if he stays at Liverpool, and he's going to want a pay rise. And then you are asking yourself the question, do I want to give this player a 4-year deal with an enhanced wage that will take him through to age 33, for example? Or shall I sell high when his value is peaked and Bayern Munich really, really need a winger? And those are the decisions that sporting directors have to make in the cold, hard light of day. You have to take the emotion out of it and say, what's best here? And ultimately, if they can sell Diaz here at 28 years of age for this much money and then replenish with Hugo Ekitike, who is 5 years younger, this is the sort of thing that smart clubs do. So I can't help but escape the feeling that Liverpool have basically played a blinder here. Spent all summer saying, nope, Diaz is not for sale. Diaz is not for sale. We're not selling him. No. As a firm negotiating tactic, they've watched Bayern get super desperate because they've lost Leroy Sané. They've lost Thomas Muller. Jamal Musiala got injured badly in the Club World Cup, and they missed out on Nico Williams. Marcus Rashford went to Barcelona. It's left Bayern Munich just scrabbling around for options here, and that's where a bit of desperation, I think, has kicked in, and they've ended up paying, honestly, too much for Luis Diaz. But obviously he's a very good player. But Liverpool will be very happy with this.
This is what smart clubs do. I think you summed it up brilliantly. We've been talking and eulogising about how Liverpool have been doing their business in the past few transfer windows. This one, I think it epitomises all of it. Sam touched on it there. They bought the player for around 40 million. And a few years of great service to the football club. He turns 28, soon to be 29, with a year left on his contract and a year option, and had made a profit on him. And a substantial profit on him. And the add-ons which are associated with this deal, we are told that Liverpool negotiated so that they are going to be very, very achievable. So that the full deal that this is worth is probably what Liverpool are going to receive in the fullness of time. I know we always say, clubs like to say, oh, this deal is worth £80 million, but it requires all of these performance-related conditions to be met. It feels like, from all of the narrative that's coming out admittedly from Liverpool, that these conditions are very, very achievable. So this looks like another, as Sam said, smart piece of business by Liverpool, worrying for the rest again.
And same with Darwin Nunez, with lots of teams interested in him. Sam, I'll start with you on this one. Nunez, can you see why Liverpool would be looking to cash in on him?
Yeah, it's just not really worked. Doesn't fit. Has never commanded a role in a team, and has just never quite felt right, has it? You know, it's never felt like Darwin's team. It's never felt like he's got a spot. He's never fully felt like he's meshed with the players there. And so after 3 years, if they can pick up 40, 50 million for him from wherever it might be, Italian teams, Napoli were linked earlier in the summer, Saudi Arabian teams are seemingly in the mix. All the reporting I see around this is that everybody considers Darwin Nunez's Liverpool career to be finished, and we're just kind of waiting to see where he ends up as a result of that. And again, Liverpool just kind of moving on at the right time here. And if they do end up getting 40, 50 million, it will create a lot of jealousy from a lot of other fans of clubs as well, because it's another situation where they're getting a really, really handsome figure in for a player that hasn't even worked out.
And we talked right at the top about how other clubs are able to spend money, and it's largely done through sales, and with Diaz and Nunez and others potentially on the exit list at Liverpool, you can see how they're financing a lot of these deals, Doms.
Like as you keep saying, it is incredible how they've been doing their business. And I think ominously for fans of other clubs, and in this case, particularly Newcastle, when everyone was saying, well, how are they going to afford it? Well, number one, there was a financial expert who spoke to one of my colleagues and said, Liverpool actually don't need to make any more sales to be able to do the Isak deal. But I think they will think sensibly, will Liverpool, even though they might not need to make sales to potentially do a big deal like Isak. They're thinking 2-3 years ahead, and they will look at the financial fair play and the PSR conditions that they will need to be met. And if they can trim their squad in the right places, like they are trying to do just now with Diaz and maybe Nunez leaving, those two are going to generate close to £100 million. So if not more. And that's going to more than fund what they need to spend on Alexander Isak, if that is going to happen in this transfer window. So again, smart business by Liverpool. We've spoken about what they did last summer. They even made a profit on last summer's transfer window. How often do you hear that? When a club makes a profit in a transfer window and still gives themselves a realistic chance of winning the league, which they ended up doing. And then off the back of that, scare everyone else in the Premier League by really going for it in one of the most extraordinary windows, if Isak is to come, that I think we'll ever have seen from a football club, I think.
Okay, brilliant, lads. We'll leave that one there for now, but we'll be back in part 2 discussing some potential outgoings at Manchester United, and we'll be chatting about a couple of England stars who could be on their way to Italy. Right, hello, welcome back to your favourite podcast, of course, the Transfer Talk podcast. I'm joined by Dharmesh, Sheth and Sam Tighe. We're going to chat about Manchester United now, and in particular, Jadon Sancho. Now, Borussia Dortmund are interested in signing him again. It would be a third spell there, wouldn't it? And the German side are one of a number of clubs, including Juventus, that are keen on the 25-year-old. Darms, I'll start with you here, mate. Sancho's obviously got great memories of his times at Dortmund. What are the details around this one?
Yeah, this is just an initial interest from Borussia Dortmund. They've explored the conditions of a deal that it would take to get Sancho from Manchester United. The noises around Sancho now are that the asking price might be coming down from a Manchester United end. I'm just getting the feeling now, you've seen it with Rashford, the option price is much, much less than what Aston Villa would have had to have paid. Sancho's one looks like it's going to be less than what Chelsea would have had to have paid. Remember, Villa would have had to have paid 40 million for Rashford. It's now 26 million for Barcelona. Chelsea would have had to have paid 25 million for Sancho. We think that might even be as much as 10 million pounds less now, the asking price for Sancho. I think that Manchester United are now just thinking, you know what? At some point, we just need to stop and reset. And if that means we're going to take a hit on some of these players, we're going to take a hit. That's just the way it is. We can't move on otherwise. And that's why I think you might see some sales that are, let's say, below the market value and what you'd expect United would have wanted for these players. So permanent deals are what United would want. They would clearly have to consider loans as well, but they would want a permanent option or an obligation attached to any loan for these players. For example, Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, Garnacho, Tyrell Malacia. But with regard to Sancho, yes, Dortmund have always been interested in him. He's had 2 fantastic spells for them. Juventus remain keen. There's a couple of clubs in Saudi Arabia as well who have been looking at developments with regard to Sancho, and Napoli had a long-standing interest throughout this summer's transfer window as well, and they're still after a player in that position.
Look, with these kind of transfers, and particularly from Man United's perspective here, sometimes we might get a bit hung up on how much the transfer fee might be for Sancho to leave, but the real key condition for United would be to get those wages off the books, because the bill looks fit to burst right now. You know, they've added Matheus Cunha, they've added Brian and Burmo. Both of these players, reports would suggest, are on a pretty hefty whack, 200k a week plus, you know, and when you sign for 62 and 66 million apiece, you obviously qualify for big wages. So they've loaded up even more onto the wage bill, and they need to start shedding. So for Sancho, it almost doesn't matter if it's 10 or 15 million. What matters is the wages come off the books. And so if there is a loan, the wages has to be paid. If it's a permanent deal, the transfer fee can be a bit lower. That's okay, as long as you draw a line in the sand and get those wages off the books, because United can't afford to sustain this many attackers on this much money. Even United, it's just not healthy. So the key for me on Sancho there is wages, not fee.
What would you do if you were Sancho, Sam?
Well, look, I don't know. It's obviously personal circumstances always apply. It seems from the outside looking in that Sancho's time at United is probably done. He's had a fair few chances to kickstart and restart, and it's never really seemed to go for him. Doesn't seem like a particularly happy place for him. And if that's the case, then why prolong the pain? United are clearly happy to say goodbye to him under the right circumstances. I'd imagine Sancho is reciprocating that. Otherwise, there wouldn't be all this interest in him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone back on loan to Borussia Dortmund. So, direction of travel, as Dharmesh now famously says most podcasts, I would say Sancho is on the way out for sure. We'll just see exactly how and where.
Well, what's the direction of travel for another couple of England strikers with caps to their name that have been linked with moves abroad as well? Raheem Sterling and Jack Grealish, because Napoli are a club that have not only been keeping an eye on Sancho, we just spoke about, but also thought to be interested in potentially Jack Grealish, Raheem Sterling. That's according to our colleagues in Italy. We've seen some British players go over to Napoli recently, haven't we? To great success. Scott McTominay, Billy Gilmore, and so on. Darms, we're going to see more British players heading to Naples?
I mean, Antonio Conte loves it, doesn't he? Loves going to the Premier League and bringing in players who seem to be out of favour at their clubs, and then those clubs who have sold those players see their players go to Napoli and achieve wonderful success and lose their rag. Why did we not keep these players? Look at what they're doing with Napoli. Well, sometimes it's just the fit, isn't it? Sometimes they just don't fit with one club, and they clearly fit under Antonio Conte at Napoli. He's got a history of trying to bring in players from the Premier League, goes back to his time at Inter Milan as well, when Lukaku was there and Ashley Young was there as well. Billy Gilmore, as Pete's mentioned, and Scott McTominay.
Victor Moses.
Don't
forget Victor Moses,
well.
Dharmesh.
Yes. So you could see one of those players heading to Napoli. I mean, what would be a bigger selling point than just pointing towards the players that have come from the Premier League and saying, look what they've done? Be a real incentive for these players to go there and maybe win a title in Italy, which would be fantastic.
Yeah, Philip Billing also joins Napoli on loan last season, so I didn't mean to forget about you, Phil. Of course, Tomori and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And to a point, Christian Pulisic all moving over to Milan. Like, it's becoming one of those very well-trodden paths right now where, you know, players that aren't having the best time in the Premier League are moving over to Serie A. And whatever it is about maybe the style of the league and the kind of build of player that the Premier League tends to produce, it just works. And so for Grealish or for Raheem Sterling, this could really be a saviour moment for them. We'll have to see. I mean, I'm sure Grealish has 25 clubs interested in him, but they're all just holding their cards close to their chest right now because they know that any deal for him will be very expensive unless they drag it out and try to make City squirm a little bit and make them a little bit more desperate.
Yeah, wait till the end of the window. These are what a lot of these clubs are going to do. And I wouldn't be surprised if the clubs, we're going back to Manchester United as well, now that Manchester United made it clear that they want to get rid of these 5 players, if you're an interested club, why do it now? Wait until you get a great deal towards the end of the window.
Yeah, and as we carry on through the any other business section, if you like, we believe that Napoli are going for these guys because they've missed out on Dan Ndoye from Bologna. That looks as though he's going to be a Nottingham Forest player, £34 million. What do we know about Ndoye? What can Forest fans expect, Sam?
Yeah, I like Ndoye. He's had a really good year. He was a star at the Euros last summer for a really good Switzerland team. Really nice, intricate play, sort of melded really well with the rest of the team, and they had quite a strong Bologna influence in that team, so it almost felt like a bit of a club team at points. And then into the season with Bologna, played in the Champions League, and he helped them win a Coppa Italia in May, which was their first trophy for 51 years. So Dan Ndoye has had a really, really good 12 months. And at 24 years of age, it's probably about the right time for him to make a move like this. He's fast, but he's also very physical. And when defenders try to jockey him and jostle him, he just pushes them away. He really relishes that kind of physical battle, which for any club buying a winger right now in the Premier League, my ultimate recommendation is you make sure that the wingers you're buying can relish that physical battle, because boy, is it tough. Boy, is it tough. You're either absolutely rapid like Anthony Elanga, or you can fight through contact and ride challenges. Otherwise, you're going nowhere. So Ndoye, I think, has the right elements in his game to be a very positive influence for Forest. I think this is some nice outside-the-box thinking post-Elanga.
And while we're on Forest, a quick one on James McAtee. I actually got this line yesterday. It's funny when you see how the likes of some of these transfer gurus get so many followers, because I put this out yesterday that Nottingham Forest had a bid in the region of £25 million rejected by Manchester City for James McAtee. And within about 5 minutes, I had like thousands of more followers, Nottingham Forest fans and Man City fans, all of a sudden clicking onto my profile. It's madness, isn't it? Transfers, what sort of getting a line out first can do. But yeah, McAtee seemingly wanted by Nottingham Forest as someone who could come into their squad, but has also been in talks with the likes of Eintracht Frankfurt, Borussia Dortmund, who we've mentioned. We know there's other teams in the Premier League as well interested. Crystal Palace, we believe, are one. And the feeling I get, guys, is that Manchester City are prepared to sell McAtee this window. For me, he looked like a great player in the Euros, Sam. Any surprise that City are wanting to sell him? And looking at some of the fans' reactions, I think there's a bit of a fear factor there that this could be the next Cole Palmer.
Yeah, there's definitely a tinge of sadness to the fan reaction to this, and look, City have effectively sold quite a lot of academy graduates over the last 5 years or so. We talk about Liverpool and the way they sell players in order to prop up spending when they want to, and Chelsea have bought like almost all of Manchester City's academy graduates over the last 3 years. They're even trying to sign Samuel Edozie to Strasbourg. That's how much of an addiction it is for them. So when you're a City fan, you watch so much talent leak out the door. Cole Palmer, Romeo Lavia, even Morgan Rogers to a point as well. It gets tough to watch yet another one go. But I feel like City's position has been fairly clear here from the start of the summer. They let James McAtee go to the under-21 Euros as captain and said, you don't need to come to us, come to the Club World Cup with us. You can just go. That's a signal, right? Conscious or unconscious, that is a signal. You're not really in our plans. You're not a crucial player to us. And then he went on that tour of Germany and spoke to Eintracht Frankfurt. That was a bit strange. That felt a bit like 16-year-old Martin Odegaard doing his big tour of Europe's top clubs to see who wanted to pitch in the best deal. All of these signals are McAtee's not in the plans. It's a shame, but you have to be amazing to play for Man City. That's it bears repeating it, and you've got to remember that the standard that you have to reach to play for some of these clubs is ridiculous.
Yeah, you go all the way back to Daniel Sturridge, don't you, in 2009 when City sold him, and he went on to Chelsea and then did great things at Liverpool. And there is this trend at Manchester City of selling young players who go on to have fantastic careers elsewhere. So you can understand that the Manchester City fans' reaction on this. And they've just signed a fantastic young player who played with McAtee a number of times for the England under-21s in James Trafford, rejoining Manchester City. Now explain, Dharmesh, Burnley claiming this is a club record deal for a goalkeeper. We know that Newcastle were in for him. I think they had a fee agreed, but he's gone to Manchester City. Try and sum this one all up for us.
Yeah, this was my Tuesday night, actually. It ate into my Love Island time, so I had to pause it for a little while I was trying to sort this. While I was trying to sort this out, every time I was watching Love Island, I got a text, and it was about James Trafford.
We've had a great reaction online, by the way, about your Love Island addiction, if I can say.
Listen, I'm comfortable.
I mean, people,
I'm comfortable with watching it. No problem.
I think Newcastle fans. Fans were wanting you to talk more about Love Island this week than Alexander Isak. But anyway, go on. Tell us why.
So this is how this deal has worked. So the record fee for a British keeper was Jordan Pickford. £30 million it was worth when he went from Sunderland to Everton. Now, when this deal went through from Burnley to Manchester City for James Trafford, Burnley said it was a club record. However, Manchester City are only paying £27 million. So how can this be a club record? I will try and explain, so stay with me. Newcastle United made a bid of £31 million for James Trafford, which would have been a record fee for a British keeper. Manchester City sold James Trafford to Burnley in 2023 for £14 million. Now, when they sold him, they inserted a buyback clause of £40 million. They inserted a matching clause whereby they could go into the market and match any deal that had been agreed with Burnley from another club. And they inserted a sell-on clause on the profit that Burnley would make from the sale of James Trafford. So what Manchester City have done, they've used their matching clause to match Newcastle's £31 million bid. But the reason that they're only outlaying 27 million is because of that sell-on clause that they had, because they're effectively buying the player back, but they get the sell-on clause because Burnley is selling the player. Hence why they only pay £27 million, but why Burnley are still saying it is a club record, because the deal is actually worth £31 million. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. You explained it beautifully. So it's a million more than Pickford to Everton, which I mean, Sam, on Trafford, big money for a young goalkeeper. There are some Newcastle fans claiming victory in this, saying they've ended up with a better goalkeeper in Aaron Ramsdale. I mean, listen, Trafford's got huge potential, surely.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Trafford. I mean, everybody saw what he did last season with the statistics, with the run of clean sheets, the thousands of minutes he spent without conceding a goal. And that wasn't necessarily down to Burnley's stoic defence. You know, his expected goals against during that time was something like 9.6 or something like that. I don't have the stats to hand, but, you know, statistics would suggest that James Trafford should have conceded roughly 10 goals in that time, and he conceded none. And that was him. That was all him. And add to that the fact that he is so good with the ball at his feet. He's like an outfielder. He's so calm and so smooth. He showed that for the England under-21s a couple of years ago, and has shown it once again through the start of his senior career with Burnley. So he fits City's mould very, very easily. I think he's got incredible potential. He is one of the next top goalkeepers. So I have no issue whatsoever with them paying this kind of money for him, because all the traits are there, all the tools. It's obvious to see. He's a brilliant shot stopper, and he's brilliant with the ball at his feet. It's a match made in heaven for City, and he's one of those academy graduates that has come back. He flew the nest, but came back a better player. They got one back. Hey, it's not all bad news, eh?
It'll be great to see how he gets on, and great news for England as well, that potentially their future number one is going to be playing at one of the top clubs in world football. And finally, Chelsea closing in on the signing of Ajax defender Jorrel Hato. Reports suggesting it's a deal worth more than £35 million for the 19-year-old. Sam, I'll let you have the last word on him, as I know you watch a lot of Dutch football, don't you? So what's Jorrel Hato like? What kind of a player are Chelsea getting?
I don't watch that much Dutch football, for the record. I think on the scale of acceptability, the wife says no on that one. But look, he's played for the Netherlands. He's played for the under-21s. He's also played against Aston Villa, and so I saw him in person, and he was excellent. He was annoyingly good, is how I'll put it when your team plays against him. I was really impressed with the way he defended the channel. He played left centre-back in a back three, and he defended to the outside and the inside really, really annoyingly well. I thought that is some pretty damn good culture defending for a player so young. Now, the thing with Hato is he is 19. A rough guess at how many senior appearances he has to his name already, still as a teenager?
134.
Oh, it's not far. It's like about 110. It's an outrageous amount of games for a teenager to have played.
I bet you're gutted I went over, didn't you?
Oh,
because you wanted me to
like,
go, oh my God, is it around 80? Must be. No, Dharmesh.
No, I thought you were going to say like 30. Yeah, he's captain Ajax. I think he was their youngest ever captain. He's played literally a century of games and more before he's turned 20. This is one of the most experienced teenagers you will ever see in your life. So there's work to do. He's played left back all season. He is not the most comfortable in terms of the attacking phase. I think he'll end up as a centre back, but it's been good for him to play a few different positions and gain an understanding. It's always good for young players to do that. He is incredibly one-footed, left-footed, and that will need to change. But I think I used the phrase coachable putty last week. We're talking about another situation right here.
Brilliant. Listen, guys, we're out of time, but I'm gonna put you both on the spot to finish off. Live on Sky Sports, Monday Night Football, St James's Park, Newcastle United versus Liverpool, Newcastle's first home game of the season. The players are walking out of the tunnel. Is Alexander Isak wearing a black and white shirt, a red shirt, or neither? Dharmesh.
What date is that game?
It is the first Monday Night Football of the new season. It is August.
Is the window still open?
Yes.
The 25th.
Neither.
Sam.
Neither, because he's joined Liverpool, but he had a late start to pre-season, so he's not fit enough for the matchday squad.
Oh,
Right.
Pete's face is so annoying.
Okay, well, I'm gonna put mine in. I'm gonna put mine in. Black and white. Number 9 on the back. 1 year contract agreed with a buyout clause for next summer. He scores the winner. The crowd go wild. And on that, I will say goodbye.
I know you wanted to finish dramatically, but it's great that while we're recording this, we've got a little bit of breaking news here.
Oh, wow.
And that is Granit Xhaka has joined Sunderland. So I know you wanted to finish on Newcastle, but I've just nicked in. And Sunderland have just confirmed the deal to sign Granit Xhaka on a 3-year contract from Bayer Leverkusen. Big signing that, I think.
Well done to Sunderland. I think they've had a fantastic summer. And we talked, didn't we, last week at length about, whether the 3 promoted clubs are going to be able to stay up this season. And I think Sunderland are giving themselves a really good chance of doing that. So well done to them and to Regis Fabrice and to everyone there at the club behind the scenes, Mr. Dreyfus and so on, who are putting together a really good summer and having a good go this year. It'll be interesting to see how Burnley, with their money that they've received from Trafford, reinvest that, and Leeds have had a go as well. So the 3 clubs coming up having a proper go, which is great to see. And that is a nice way to end the podcast, actually, isn't it? We wish all the promoted clubs well. But Sam, Darms, thank you so much to you. I'm going to go and jump on a train now to get down to Wembley Stadium for Oasis. So I've got to mention it. But big thanks to obviously everyone behind the scenes, to the guys who put all the hard work in, to Matty, to John, to Chessie and the team at Sky Sports News. The biggest thanks of all, as always, goes to you guys, our listeners. So wherever you have been listening, whether you've been in your car, on the train, in the wind or in the rain, in your house or in your shed, on the couch or in your bed, on the hills or in the valleys, in the streets or in the alleys, out for a run or maybe for a walk. Thanks for listening to Transfer Talk.
And that's for sure in the sunshine.